Hello, and welcome to my channel. Today I did a quick roundup of all the health shares. That is, I did a quick roundup of all the stocks within the health sector. I looked at their performance over the last year. So that is from January 2020 till date, and I came up with the best performing stock. I shortlisted 8 of them, and these were the top performing ones. Some of them had returns to the tune of over 1000%, and none of them had less than 300% in returns. So basically, why did I do this? Usually there's a sign that past performance is not an indicator of future performance. Well, that is true to a certain extent. But the fact is, for me, past performance is certainly an indicator to keep a stock on my watch list. So, I don't know if you're the same with me. I generally would not want to waste my time looking at researching fundamentals of shares that haven't performed so well in the past few years. So I would rather spend that time researching shares that have done well in recent time, because that sort of shows the trajectory. They might actually, there might be something interesting about them, and they might be building a foundation for a stronger future. So if you are looking at keeping a watch list of high performing health stock, you might consider listening to my breakdown of all of these different companies, and consider putting them on your watch list. But again, as a warning, this is just basically the beginning of the journey. You still have to do your own research. You still have to look closely at the chart. Whatever you do, look at the fundamentals, and you definitely want to be convinced that the company is on the right path before you ever invest. And as you know, the health segment of the of the share market is very volatile. A lot of these companies are actually still at the clinical trial stage. A number of them are pre-revenue stage. They don't have any product on the market, so they're still conducting a lot of research. And there is also the regulatory bottleneck. A lot of them have to go through the FDA or the TGA to get their product approved before they can even talk of generating a good level of revenue or income. So it's something to be very watchful about. You certainly want to be convinced that the company is on the right path before you invest, especially in for the health sector. So without wasting too much time, we'll just jump into it and do a very critical appraisal of each of these companies and see what the future might hold for them. So the first one is RAC Oncology. RAC Oncology was the best performing over the last 1 year. They actually saw an increase in their share price of over 1000%. They had a share return of over 1000%. So general overview of this company, they are actually doing trials on a biomolecule called bisantrene. Bisantrene reduces the FTO, which is another biomolecule that has been found to be a genetic driver for various types of cancer. Bisantrene, on the other hand, downregulates FTO. So they're looking at using bisantrene as a treatment, as a biomolecule to treat various types of cancer. They're actually working on acute myeloid leukemia. They're also looking at renal cancer and breast cancer as well. So they have different pipelines on different cancer that they're actually targeting to treat with these pharmaceutical agents. So the share price is sitting at $2.26 currently. They have a market capitalization of 265 million, which is pretty high. Which is relatively okay for a company at this stage. In in terms of their revenue, so they have pre-revenue. So revenue is basically negligible, just about 10,000 over the last 1 year. And then the cash flow is sitting at around 2.4 million, and they had a loss of 3.9 million over the past 1 year. So it's pretty interesting. There's a lot of media engagement and a lot of information flowing out from this company. You could easily get updates about what they're doing by just checking them up online, or they do have a YouTube channel as well where they have regular updates from their management and management hierarchy. So it's pretty interesting. I do like companies that that gives regular updates and puts touch base with their investors as to what they're doing. So we jump to the next one, which is Rhythm Bioscience. Rhythm Bioscience, so they basically they're developing a point of care testing for colorectal cancer. So their product is called Colostat, and the basis for their product, where the Colostat product is derived from research that was conducted by a couple of researchers based at the CSIRO. They did a systematic analysis of different biomolecules or biomarkers rather of colorectal cancer, and because the one that's currently being used for early diagnosis of colorectal CA is not very specific for colorectal CA. The share returns was around 638% in the last 1 year. The price is currently sitting at $1.32. They had a loss of 4.1 million. They are pre-revenue stage as well. They're still trialing their product. So they have a negative cash flow of $2.8 million. And they had a negligible revenue of just around 50,000. So this is there. It is still early. Rhythm Bioscience is still pretty early stage, but it's definitely one to watch considering how they've performed over the past 1 year. I suppose if there's a very large market for what they're trying to develop, and if they can pull it off successfully and get the necessary regulatory approval, they are very likely to do well. There's no shortage of market for what they're developing. Colorectal cancer is definitely probably the most common cancer in the general population, but men and women. With regards to the next one, Cryosite, that's a very interesting one, and that's why I've highlighted it in green. It is one of the few ones that are actually generating revenue. So they have a revenue stage company, and they seem to be profitable as well. So it's definitely an interesting one, and there is a very significant need for what they do at the moment, considering that with the COVID vaccine that's been developed, a number of the vaccine, I'm pretty sure the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna vaccine, they need to be stored at very low temperatures, sub-zero temperatures, some of them as low as minus 70 degrees. And if you want to achieve that, obviously it needs to be kept in the freezer, and then when you transport them, you do have to maintain that temperature, and that's where this company comes in. They work in temperature management and logistics. So they help manage temperature control for clinical trials and transporting biological materials in general. And in general, to transport, to make sure the temperature is well regulated, there's been speculation that there will be a lot of demand for dry ice, which is frozen carbon dioxide. Usually it's usually what they use in biomedical research to transport biological materials. just carbon dioxide dissipates and it doesn't leave water behind when it melts, and it actually stays cold for much longer. So with Cryosite, they also help with the clinical trials, logistics, that accounting. They do an accounting for medications that were administered during clinical trials. And this price is currently sitting at around 37 cents. They had a 700% increase in performance of their shares, share returns over the last 1 year. The market capitalization is sitting at around 19 million currently, and they had a revenue of $9 million over the past 1 year, and leading to a profit of 1.4 million, which is pretty good. And I'm pretty sure they did turn a corner in the sense that they've only recently become profitable in the last financial year. So it will be interesting to see if they can keep up with that profitability, if they can keep improving, and if the profit increases. But it's a very good one because obviously they are generating revenue already, and there looks to be like there is a demand for the service that they are offering. In terms of cash flow, they have a positive cash flow of 360,000. So, and that takes us to the next one. The next one is Imagion Biotech. So this is a pre-revenue stage company that I've actually highlighted in green as well. So the ones I've highlighted in green, I intend to invest in them because I think they have a positive outlook. So even though Imagion is pre-revenue, I still highlighted it in green and with the intention of investing because I think what they're doing is actually pretty groundbreaking. FDA. So Imagion's product was designated a breakthrough device by the FDA, and their product is actually called the MagSense. The MagSense is a functional diagnostic imaging device, a non-radioactive diagnostic imaging device. It's basically safer than X-rays and CT scans, which uses ionizing radiation. In the case of MagSense, they also believe it would have a higher sensitivity and specificity, in the sense that it is capable of differentiating between a benign tumor and a malignant tumor through the use of magnetic nanoparticles. So they're still developing this product, but it could be a significant achievement, as the FDA said. It could be a breakthrough device when it's finally developed. It could actually totally revolutionize how oncological diagnosis is conducted. Just like the MRI brought about incremental improvement in diagnostic modality, and was sort of complementary to CT scan in other areas as well, to a significant extent. So there is definitely a market for a more sensitive and specific diagnostic modality for cancer. In terms of Imagion's fundamentals, the share price is sitting at around 17 cents at the moment. So, the returns of the share pretty high as well over the last 1 year. Sitting around 550% share returns. I actually wish I'd invested in that. That's a very attractive figure. In terms of the market capitalization, it's very good. It's actually the highest on the list, 299 million. So seems there's a lot of investors that are aware of this one. Actually, honestly, just discovered them from the research I did for this presentation. But yeah, I'll be looking at investing in this one. Because if they do get the approval, this is gonna be a watershed moment for medical imaging. Then the profit they're not generating any profit. Yeah, they made a loss of $2.4 million their last financial reporting. Revenue was 200,000. It looks like they already, I checked their website, and it looks like they are already selling some of those magnetic nanoparticles. So basically they're selling their reagents that they will be using in conjunction with the imaging equipment. So I'm still going to look into that, because not sure what the use of those magnetic nanoparticles are probably using, in conjunction with other existing equipment. So in terms of the cash flow, they had a negative cash flow of $4.2 million. And that takes us to the next company, which is Avecho Biotech. This one, the product is called tocopherol phosphate medium. So basically, what that does, it's a drug delivery mechanism that they actually use to modify a lot of existing drugs. So some of these drugs are administered orally. There are existing drugs that have been administered orally, injection, or even through transdermal administration through the patches. But what their product does is it sort of modifies those existing drugs and make them behave in a much more attractive way, or in a better, puts them in a better form for the administration, for those administrative routes. An example of drugs that they've worked on is daptomycin. They also worked on propofol. These are very common drugs that propofol is used in. It's an anesthetic agent that's widely used. So they are sort of changing the properties of this drug through with the tocopherol phosphate medium, and it actually is an interesting one as well. So working on drug delivery routes, and making it more, make the drugs much more better performing. They had share return of 575% over the past 1 year. The price is currently sitting at around 2 cents. They had a profit. In terms of they actually made a loss of 2.4 million. So all of these companies are actually all of the companies here are actually making a net loss, except Cryosite Ltd. So this is not unusual for healthcom, because they usually very speculative, and a number of them are early stage. There's still products and a lot of research and development. It can be very usually very expensive, and for a lot of investment requirements, and that's why they generally tend to also list very early on the capital markets. Usually they list at pre-revenue stages so that they can fund their research. So in terms of revenue, they had a revenue of 200,000 and a negative cash flow of 2.24 million. And that takes us to the next one. I'm not quite sure about Avecho. I'll still keep an eye on them for a while. I was just a little bit lost with their the product they have sort of sounds like a much more advanced stage product to me. And I should mention it's also used in animal health as well. So it sounded like a much more advanced stage product to me. That's probably but I'm not sure what their regulatory approval status is for all of those ones. But it seems straightforward. What they're trying to develop, It's not necessarily so it's an incremental improvement, to existing drugs through the delivery platform they're trying to create. So I would assume that, and this is just purely an assumption, that the regulatory process will be sort of a little bit much more straightforward than when you're developing, a completely new, drugs where you do have to consider a lot of side effects and, do very thorough clinical trials and stuff. So, but we would have to just, keep an eye out on this one. And that takes us to the next one, which is Anteotech. Anteotech, the ticker code is ADO, and the share price is currently sitting at around 10 cents. They had a very good return as well. 1 year share return was 411%. Market capitalization is 196 million. If you are looking at investing in two sectors at the same time, so you're interested in the energy sector and the biotech sector, this is one for you, because they're working on battery technology on their energy segment, a subsidiary of the company, and they also have a lot of interest in biotechnology. They're developing a point of care testing, and they actually were involved in the COVID testing. So it's a very good one as well, that I'm planning to keep an eye on. They had a revenue of 300,000, so basically, not so much there. A net loss of $3.1 million and negative cash flow 2.78 million. And that takes me to the last one, and the final one is Emvision Medical. And the last one on the list is Emvision Medical. Emvision is the last one. It still had a whooping, but it still had a huge 343% return. So all of these shares that I've actually looked at nothing less than 300% in terms of return. They've done so well in the last financial year, and it will be interesting to really keep an eye on them and see where they go this new financial year. And I would definitely be considering jumping on board and investing in some of them if and see if they'll potentially give similar returns to what they had in the last past year. So quickly on EMV, the share price is currently at around $3. And then the market capitalization is 216 million. They currently they had a net loss of $3.5 million, and the revenue was 900,000. The cash flow is negative 3.2 million. And what do they do? Actually, they are working on a stroke, portable stroke imaging modality. So this is also a medical diagnostic company, similar to Imagion, but obviously their product is totally different. What they're doing is they're trying to improve the way stroke diagnosis or stroke cranial imaging works for patients that have strokes. With technology, they have uses electro microwave radio frequency. So the electron microwave radio frequency imaging protocol has been researched for many years by some researchers, a professor and a couple of professors at University of Queensland, and they believe that the diagnostic images are a lot better in terms of resolution compared to the current imaging protocol, which is CT scan. So the resolutions are quite attractive, interesting, and it makes the diagnosis a lot easier.